Okay, so thank you for joining me and agreeing to talk to us today. So can you tell me, first of all, a little bit about yourself?
My name is Uzo Iwobi, Professor Uzo Iwobi, and I am the founder of Race Council Cymru. I'm originally from Nigeria, and I got married to my husband, Andrew, who's a lawyer as well. And I moved to Wales and settled here in Swansea. Couldn't get a job in the legal profession. I was told in the job centre in Swansea that it would be impossible for me to get a job as a lawyer in Wales because I'm Black by one of the job centre officials. I was horrified. That was in 1993. And I was given the opportunity to go up and down Water Road where all the solicitors were and to try to get a job. And I applied for over 45 applications with my bar qualifications because I was called to the Nigerian bar. And in Nigeria, it is a fused profession. So you're qualified as a solicitor as well as a barrister. So you do both exams at the same time. So, and because Nigeria was once colonized, lawyers from Nigeria could actually come here and work here. So the thought that I couldn't work in the legal profession for which I was trained and fully qualified was shocking to me, not because I'm not able to, but because I'm Black. It was really shocking, especially because that was a government established organization. The job center is there to help people to get into the workplace. So after going up and down a number of times to, the law firms on Walter Road, I finally got invited to an interview for a civil procedure job by a Welsh firm in St. James Gardens. I tell you, I was really excited, got to this interview. This man starts asking me questions, the owner of the firm, a private law firm. And he asked me absolutely nothing to do with private practice or civil procedure or anything. It was criminal law, it was evidence, it was jurisprudence or the legal theory of law. It was, company law, contract tort. And I was like thinking, which element of this has got to do with actual civil procedure? And after about 1.5 hours, the man says to me, wow, you're a very, very intelligent woman. I said, thank you. And does that mean I get the job then? He said, actually, no. I just wanted to know what they teach you in those countries. So there was never any hope that I was attending that interview for 1.5 hours to stand a chance. I was shocked. I was disappointed. I was very upset. Obviously, went back to the job center. I said to the woman, okay, what do I do? And the woman said to me, my advice to you, forget that you're a solicitor or lawyer. People really do not want to know because Black people will not get this opportunity. I told you before. And just don't tell people you're a barrister, solicitor. Just my advice is get a job on the shop floor. And just I said, what do you mean by shop floor? He said, Tesco's, Argos, everything. Toys R Us, Sainsbury's was big in 1993 and said, try there and see if you get something. I was really, really disheartened. But I started applying for jobs. Honestly, I was even turfed out of Hypervalue, which was like a pound land, where I put in just my GCSEs and my A levels, which I did quite well in school, mostly A's and B's. They said the minimum criteria for that role to be a cashier on their desk was to have your basic GCSEs. So I had all those. I had 10 or was it 12 GCSEs. And my friend Moira, who was a white Welsh woman who had no GCSEs, and she just went, applied, got that job instantly. They said, can we interview you right now? Yeah, got that job. So I went back to the shop. I said, I'm really happy for my friend, but I applied 2 days ago. Can you give me tips on how I could improve my application? And they said to me, actually, no. Are you shopping? I said, no, then get out. I don't need to talk to you, and I don't want you to be in my shop if you're not shopping. You're wasting my time. I said, I'm just asking for feedback because I'm desperate to get a job. I don't really want to go on the dole, you know. And she said, Madam, you can leave or I call security. And whilst I was talking, she pressed the buzzer. I just turned and left. Honestly, it was the most soul destroying moment for me in my life. I stood there, I thought, I can't even get a £2 job. There was no minimum wage all those years ago. And so I went out very disheartened, just heartbroken. And I thought I'll probably never get a job. You know, it's people just look at your skin color and that's it. A bit later on, I did get a job in Toys R Us on the checkouts. It was £2.40 an hour. I got the night at 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. job, and I took a night shift job as well in Walker's factory from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And that was £3.60 an hour because I was working non-social hours. So, you know, newly married, expecting my first child, no car, we were on the bus, we walked places. It was so tough to do all these jobs. You know, when I was qualified to be a lawyer or, you know, work in the legal profession in any capacity, I had my two children, my daughter. In fact, I left Toys R Us after work on the 17th of January 1994, and the 18th I gave birth to my daughter. So I could have delivered my daughter on the tail. That's how much I needed to work to build in some money and reserve. It was very tough. We didn't even have transport. We used to, for the first few years of her life, we just had her pushchair and we'd put all the shopping in the undercarriage and try and get in on the bus with your pushchair and two kids. It was just as many Welsh people know, it is hard with kids and starting. One, you don't have your family, you don't have your friends, you don't have your community that you're used to. I was so desperately lonely, and that led me to set up the African Community Centre in Wales. And that community centre really became a focal point where I said, are there any other Africans in Wales, please? Please come. I'm so sad. I'm so isolated. I just wanted to, you know, talk about how can we make that difference to each other and help each other in the work that we seek to do. So that was how I founded the African Community Centre. We started with 4 people, and today it employs 5 people, and we have 537 members. So it has grown incredibly. And then through the journey of my work in the UK, I ended up getting my break into teaching law in the Swansea Law School. And it was £27 an hour just because the dean of the law faculty heard my story that I was in the, and he was so shocked. It was only a part-time law lecturing job, but he said, look, you have to apply, you have to go on the interview. And I did, and I got that job. It was part-time, but imagine £2.40 an hour and then £3.60 an hour to 1 hour at £27. It was totally incredible to me that I could get that job. And I taught law in the Swansea Law School for 9 years on a part-time basis. It was this work that led me then to the awareness of South Wales Police. I applied, got a job there, was a race and diversity trainer, sharing a lot of my own experiences of racism. I mean, my family were going through all sorts of racism. My house had been smashed into. My neighbor said, go back to your country, you black this, you black that. We called the police, she scratched up our car. The police came in, why did you do it? Oh, I never did, but the white paint was on the key. And she'd keyed the whole car and said, we got too big for our boots, F off back to your country. We don't need black people like you around. All these really hurtful, damaging comments. At the same time, both my kids were in school. They were the only Black kids in the whole school. I mean, Swansea has improved now, and Cardiff is very cosmopolitan. But in those days, in 1993, 94, you could count Black people in the palm of your hands, you know. So they both went through hell and high waters in school. That's the small potted history of why I applied to become one of the Commission for Racial Equality commissioners, because I wanted to influence policy nationally. And it was an interview post. I was appointed by Ruth Kelly, the then Home Secretary, under Tony Blair's cabinet era. And when I finished my term as a commissioner to the CRE, when it merged with the other commissions to form the Equality and Human Rights Commission, my term, my appointment ended. And then, grassroots community groups, 25 of them, met with me and said, Uzo, we want a body and an umbrella body that would carry the voices of BAME grassroots people to Welsh Government, to public sector, to third sector, to private sector, and show that we have a voice and we're prepared to use it. Race Council Cymru is the only national body that was established by ethnic minority people, and that's how it happened. So in terms of how did I become Specialist Equality Advisor for Welsh Government? Well, there was an advert on the Welsh Government portal, and I had finished my time as a CRE commissioner. I'd finished my work. I was made redundant in South Wales Police, and I was desperately wanting to influence national policy, government policy. And I thought, I'm going to apply for this job. And I applied. It was extremely tough, the interviews. And I went through to stage 2. And then it was even tougher, because then you face the solicitors, you face the deputy minister, who was then going to be your boss. And it was really a tough, and you just didn't know what questions were going to be asked. And so many other people were applying for that one role. So I was over the moon when I had the call that I had been successful. Honestly, I cannot tell you the joy. This is probably one of the best jobs that I have ever done in Wales. I am so thankful for this opportunity to share and to help advise the Deputy Minister and Chief Whip and Welsh Government ministers around equalities. It's really incredible, because we have a strong leadership in Wales. Our First Minister, Mark Drakeford, is a champion for equality and fairness and justice, social justice, and to work for a person who leads from the top and includes everyone. He talks very much about something he terms distributed leadership, where everybody is a leader, and together we make the best cohesive whole for Wales. And that is so powerful, so it's wonderful. Often you have to persuade your leaders to think about equality and promote inclusion, when it's the leader leading and asking you, hey, where are you? Come along. Come on, I'm waiting for you here. That is so powerful and amazing for Wales.
That's really good. There's obviously some really terrible things that have happened in your past, and hearing, that's not that long ago, that's in the 90s. So to hear that those sorts of things were happening to you and your children in Wales is quite shocking.
And they are Welsh citizens. And the crazy thing is, many people who hear my story think, oh, that happened in 1993, 1994, 1995. I would hope to think that we have improved. In some ways we have, because I couldn't get a job in the legal profession when I arrived. My son is a trainee solicitor today, and a Welsh firm gave him a chance.
Yeah.
And it is a fantastic BBC Radio Wales that has listened to my daughter's track and thought, this is excellent quality. Doesn't matter who you are, you're going on the Welsh A-list. And I'm so excited that that is happening. However, just before the pandemic hit, we had a call from a school in the valleys, where 5 incidences of racism happened with children as young as 6, where they told a Black girl to go back to her country because she looked like a monkey. That is Wales today. And also a child in December 2019 in Cardiff, um, an Asian boy was locked in a toilet by 2 kids and beaten. He fought his way out of that, and in the end was suspended for fighting his way out of that lock-in. That's what's happened. Another boy was stopped and searched, who'd never done anything and was really harassed, put in cuffs and feared for his own life. There is so much that is going on that people are not honestly aware of. And I think there has to be more done to raise awareness of people's experiences in Wales today. I think it's so important that that is done, because without a conscientious effort to understand what is currently ongoing and to address it, we are really in a difficult place.
Those are some really shocking stories and examples that you've given there. You talked about the culture in Wales when you first arrived. Do you think that it's similar now? Are you seeing a more diverse community in Wales and in Swansea? I know you're in Swansea as well in particular.
Yes, I live in Swansea, I work in Cardiff, and we work right across the whole of Wales. I have to say that the diversity is improved and increased significantly. It's not just diversity in terms of skin color, but diversity in terms of experience. And people are wanting to also identify with their Welsh heritage. I am learning Welsh, doing dysgu Cymraeg, doing hoffi siarad Cymraeg, and doing dodo Nigeria no wreiddiol. And so I was born originally in Nigeria, but I consider myself a very proud Welsh Nigerian woman. That's how I see myself. And I do think there is a space for people like me in many people's hearts. Unfortunately, there are pockets of what I call pockets of wickedness that drowns the voices of the good, which is unfortunate. It's just like in newspapers, bad news sells. And when a few of these people who are totally behaving in a racist and intolerant manner, their voices are highlighted and spotlighted. And that is the sad experience of many people. These are everyday racism issues that people are having to deal with. And this is why the Black History Wales movement is pushing extremely hard for Black History 365, that we have opportunities to tell the stories of Black people who've made extremely positive contributions in Wales. I mean, look at the NHS. People from the Windrush generation have contributed significantly to this, the well-being of people in Wales. The NHS is full of people from diverse ethnic backgrounds, Commonwealth citizens, people from India, people from Africa, all parts, people from the Caribbean islands. Then you talk about nurses from the Philippines and all sorts of diverse people. If you plucked out every different face today, I tell you the NHS would collapse. It couldn't run just based on white faces, white Welsh faces. So we need to tell those stories of elders like Vanessa Cyril, OBE, the leading midwife for the whole of the UK from the West Indies, a Windrush elder who delivered over 2,000 babies in Wales. And one of them is 35, became a consultant neurosurgeon and treated her and said, "You delivered me. Do you recognize me, Mrs. Cyril?" Those are the stories that we're bringing to life through the Heritage Your Funded program, which is our stories, our voices, our history, Windrush stories. We're capturing the experiences of at least 60 Windrush people in Wales. So you might have seen the advert that's ongoing through the Parliament. We've released only 10 of the stories. So it's fantastic to see some of those contributions, because all you hear are negative stuff, or Black people stabbing people, there's a gun war, or there's theft and burglary or something. You hardly hear the stories of our contributions and what we have done as people of African descent.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's really great what you've done. Like you said, that you've worked on that project. I think it is really great for you to be sharing those stories, and it's a really great platform to do that. I know as well that you worked on, and there was another project that you worked on that was funded by us, the Young Roots project.
Yes.
Could you tell us a bit more about that as well?
Oh, definitely. I tell you, that project is so close to my heart. My daughter, having been through all that she went through, I've told you in this recording, just had a really difficult time being supported in creating her art, and having overcome all the anxiety, stress, fear, and depression sometimes, she worked through. What actually influences how I create music? How do I create music? Do I tap into my Jewish heritage, because her grandmother is Jewish and white, half Lithuanian Jew, half Polish Jew? Or do I come from a more rhythmic African heritage? Or do I take the Celts because I'm born in Wales? How does my heritage and the diversity of my heritage create my composition abilities? So she asked that question and said, Mom, I've been thinking about that. I said, wow. So go and talk to YMCA. She said to the YMCA, I want you to work with Race Council, Black History, African Community Center. Let's come up with this whole program. If Heritage will think about it and fund us, I'm sure there are many like me across the whole of Swansea that have a talent either to dance, who are artistic, either to dance, compose, or sing, or perform, but just have never thought about actually in delivering my art form, how does my heritage enhance that, fuel that, or energize that in any way? Or have I just made it up out of thin air? So this fantastic project caught everybody's heart, and thank you to Heritage Lottery Fund. We love you guys so much, because Ify posed her question and the Swansea Museum came together with all of us as partners, and Ify and the young people that she gathered who were so excited. Yes, I want to talk about my heritage. I want to talk about my art. And so it was funded, and 33 diverse young people participated, and some of them they released a single which they all composed, which was a mishmash of Indian, Bollywood style, and African and Jewish. They had a Venezuelan singer, they had a Spanish calypso singer. It
Wow.
it was just wonderful. And they ended up in the Rockfield studios, where some stereophonics had recorded, and had a whole day talking about their heritage, their history, and making this music together. It was phenomenal. The dance became so popular, the group that danced, that they were invited to the Wales Millennium Centre, to the atrium in St. Fagans, to talk about their history and perform. And then they ended up at the Royal Welsh College, and that has become a touring little troupe. And now the Wales Millennium Centre was so excited by part one that they have partnered with Ify to try and roll this out across the whole of Wales and get more people talking about, young people who are artistic, talking about their culture. So we've come to you for stage 2 funding. Go fund us, Heritage.
On the topic of communities and people sort of coming together, what kind of support networks are there available to people of colour that are living in Wales currently?
Okay. We currently have the Black History Wales Committee, which is made up of 127 diverse ethnic organizations, including the 6 national museums, linked to the National Museums of Wales, the 6 museums, including St. Fagans, are all members of the committee. We are also partnered with Literature Wales, the Wales Millennium Centre. We've got groups like the Sub-Saharan African Partnership, which has about 35 smaller groups within it. And I do think that, it's so important, it's really, really important that people feel supported. I think one good thing also is Race Council have established 5 cultural hubs in Wales, and those hubs currently live on WhatsApp, so that before they get a physical building. So we are looking to support communities because many are so small. So for example, in Swansea, we've got 25 ethnic groups. So we've got the Chinese, the Filipinos, Palestinians, Turkish, Latin American, the Black history, Africans, Indian, Pakistani, Congolese, Filipinos, all in the Jews, all in one hub. And it's open to the local community to come in and do Tai Chi lessons. We've now moved into the arts wing of the Swansea Grand Theatre. So it is an open access for any and everybody. So even though it is run and managed by grassroots paying groups, it is open to all in the local community, sharing that community feel, sharing understanding with a bit of a cafe. And we're hoping when the times are better that you can come over and have a nice pina colada and talk to some people and eat some Chinese stir-fried rice in the cafe. So it's an opportunity to network and really connect. In Carmarthenshire, we have 23 ethnic groups in their WhatsApp hub. In Cardiff and the Vale, we have the same. In Newport, we have 24 groups. So it is easy for Heritage Lottery to come along and understand who is around the table. How can we work with you to get those stories of these communities out? You did recently fund a book for the Portuguese diaspora in Wrexham, where they told their own story about the history of the and collected poetry of people of Portuguese heritage. It was brilliant. More of that, please. Let's tell the stories of our history, like Africans, write our story, or people of African descent. We have a big, massive project that's going to be probably over £400,000, which we wanted to submit, but to collect the the heritage and contributions of people of Black African and African Caribbean descent across the whole of Wales, because that's what forms the Black history diaspora, as we refer to it. But we do have those cultural hubs for support, and then we do have other groups like that deliver work but don't necessarily have network. We have the Windrush Cymru elders, and they have 66 Windrush elders in their midst, not counting children, relatives, just the core lead elders. They meet at the Royal Welsh College once every week, and that's an opportunity to network with older people, 50 plus, and all their families.
I was just wondering if you could let us know, like, what else like the fund could be doing, or also the heritage sector as well, to encourage sort of leadership from Black people.
I think that there are a couple of things you could do as Heritage Lottery. I think you could work with Race Council Cymru to hold masterclasses or teaching workshops through Black History 365, because it kicked off 1st of October. We have a whole year of it to space out and talk to people their own stories about how to document the contributions of people of Filipino descent, Latin American descent. Many people don't know what is possible. So just to talk to them about the need to begin the conversations and build their narrative in order to put together a bid that is coming from the grassroots, really, not like somebody's sitting in a policy office and writing what they think communities need, but to generate that understanding of the power of telling your own stories. There is a power in me telling my stories than in somebody else going, oh yeah, I knew this lady called Uzo, and when she came to the UK, oh, she went through so much. But I'm telling you myself, there is a level of the right to self-determine and the right to tell that story in an authentic and undiluted way, because it is my story and I want to tell it. So I think, maybe doing workshops with some people who've been successful, maybe like Ife's project coming out to tell other young people who have never done anything. This is the idea I came up with. It stemmed from my heritage, wanting to talk about that, and that led to this. So taking people whose projects have been successful to go and, share a bit. I think so those training sessions in spats would be great across the whole of Wales. I think also putting together small funds that we could help you ensure that small organizations bid for. What we do with Arts Council Wales is that we are given money to distribute to small communities. So as part of Black History, we're given money to distribute to over 20 regional groups to do Black History workshops. So then we collect the report, collect the photographs, collect the images, and bring it in a comprehensive thing. That's the kind of thing that the Black History Wales through Race Council can do.
And sort of on that same wavelength, what should society and non-Black people be doing to support Black people into taking up positions of leadership and to sort of provide them an environment where Black people feel like they can be a leader in their sector?
I just feel that people need to be courageous. Firstly, look into your heart and decide not to be racist, decide not to be colorist, decide, make a personal decision, a concerted effort at all times to check your own values and how you make decisions about who you recruit and employ. Once you've checked yourself and said to yourself, I am going to do things. I mean, my boss had the opportunity to recruit a white person. And probably there were others as equally qualified than me, but they chose to do the right thing and open it up on merit, and the diversity that I was able to bring to that conversation because of the COVID impacting BAME people. If I wasn't in that role, I wonder how well they would have been able to connect on those issues because it affected ethnic minority people 4 times more than white people. Sadly, many of the Windrush people died in this pandemic in the NHS. People like Donna Campbell, who was one of us. She worked in Velindre Trust, and she passed away leaving 2 very young children. It was devastating, and she was a single mom. And then, Brian Fuller, who lost his life. He was a mental health worker in the NHS and left 4 children to his wife. It's very sad. Everybody who's died in COVID, especially serving in the NHS, is devastating. But when you are from a different country and you don't have family, like I know 2 Filipino nurses died one day apart, husband and wife, and their children had to be placed into care. The oldest was 7. So I'm just wondering about the need for white people to understand the real sense of privilege that they have and to be using that white privilege responsibly, fairly, and in a just and equitable manner. To say, here is an opportunity I think you should go for. I have a white friend. I call her my sister. She's a white English girl who lives in Wales and married into a Welsh family. Her name is Angela. Angela was the one she has always championed me. And Angela actually was the one who found the advert to be a commissioner to the Commission for Racial Equality and said, Uzo, she called me up and said, I've seen the job that has your name all over it. This is for you. Go for it and don't even give me any excuse. She was the one who told me that job had been advertised. I applied, I became a commissioner. Be a white ally that thinks about people around you, that says, have you seen this opportunity? Go for it. Another person who's always done that for me, who is a beautiful friend, is Kevin. My friend Kevin is just incredible. He would always see opportunities and say, Uzo, they'd bite your hand off to get you into this role. Of course, many times I didn't get it, but he thought highly enough of me to encourage me to go for something. So I'd say it's time white people who are highly privileged understand their privilege and use it in a just and equitable manner to change the narrative that they put out there and to encourage participation and promote inclusion. It's so important that that happens.
Following on from that, the recent sort of focus and media attention around the Black Lives Matter movement, this sort of feeds into what you were just talking about. But what do you think are the next steps in society to improve the lives of Black communities in the UK? Like how do we move forward from that now?
Well, Race Council Cymru funds the manager of called the National Campaigns Manager for Black Lives Matter Wales. It's a collective of 12 Black Lives Matter leaders across Wales. They come together not to be morphed into one, but to put their voices together to effect national change. They're still all individual and very different regional networks, and they're still doing their own work in their own regions. Like the lady from Cannon Valley, Martha Tickett, it was the first time as a white Welsh woman she'd ever done anything. Very young girl, never done anything like that, just saw what happened to George Floyd, saw what was happening in Wales and said, no, I'm standing up. And she brought loads of people out in Cannon Valley to come and take a stand. You know, it's about sisterhood and brotherhood, irrespective of color of skin. And I do think that the new manifesto that they've got, which they're going to be launching, people should take it seriously. People should really work with the regional Black Lives Matter as well as the national Black Lives Matter to document the protests that have happened this period. This is a legacy issue, and I'm hoping the Heritage will fund us to collect those 12 regional stories and have the documentation of videos, of images, of placards, of speeches that were delivered for such a time as this. I know that St. Pagan's had a donation of all the placards that were made by people, and it was carted off to be archived. I think such a thing should be done in terms of digitalization and collecting these the oral stories, because I do think it mustn't remain stories of people shouting and pumping their fists. It needs to change policy, national policy, promote inclusion, and Race Council is about to launch a zero tolerance policy on racism in Wales for individuals and for organizations. And I do think we need to call on everybody who is part of Wales to sign up personally and professionally to ensure we have a zero tolerance policy. If everybody made that decision, if everybody did, racism will be eradicated in an hour. If we all took an individual decision to end racism, it would end in 1 hour. How powerful would that be if we did?
Is there anything else that you
Well,
would like to share?
want to thank Heritage. I just want to thank Heritage Lottery for listening to our voices, for agreeing to fund the projects we bring to you, because not many people are able to write huge words like you're used to, because our first languages are sometimes very different. And for many of us, English is actually a second language. The only way you can know how difficult it is for BAME people to apply and be successful is to walk in their moccasins. That is all I would ask, that you continue to hear the voices of people of diverse backgrounds. We all matter to the story of Wales, whether people like it or not. We are Welsh people. We have contributed to Wales. Our children are born here. They have Welsh accents. They speak Welsh. This is part of the generation. You can't cut someone off because they are visually different, because their color is different. or their heritage is different. It should be understood, accepted, and celebrated, because that's what makes Wales great.
Thank you so much for
Thank
giving us
you.
time and talking to us. It's been so interesting.
Thank you
I'll
so
let
much,
you
Heidi.
go.
Bye.
Bye. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.